Hey, Alex here. So what's the most important thing that you can do on Upwork or Fiverr or whatever you're doing? Hiring people is great and all, but you probably shouldn't be hiring that many people that often. After maybe 10, 20 hires, you'll actually have your own team. You'll have the same people you go back to again and again for different tasks. And that's essentially your team. So the key is to find your team. Now, the first person you hire, second, third, it's often not going to be the person that you want to work with for a long time. When you find those people you want to work with for a long period of time, lock them down. Like, be super nice to them, have like very clear requirements, don't antagonize them. Essentially act like they're your friend, because they are going to be your friend. If you find someone who's truly good at their job, who's at a price that you can afford, just be as kind and pay them on time and do everything you can to make them happy, because you just found a teammate. And the key in life is to find a good team. With a good team, you can tackle any problem. If you have a good designer, good developer, good marketer, you essentially have a company. With that team, with those skill sets, with good people who have those skill sets, you can essentially build whatever company you want. The key is to find that team though. Finding a team is not easy. It took me 2 years before I settled on people who I was happy to work with, and then I continue to work with again and again. I haven't hired any new core team members since June of this year, when I got a web developer, like a Webflow web developer, because I've transitioned. So that's the thing, I've worked with the same designer for 2.5 years now. I've worked with the same iOS developer for 4 years now. I've worked with the same front-end web developer for web apps for 2 years now. And then on website, front-end website, I just onboarded a new team member because I hadn't actually made that many front-end websites. So what you need is always changing. So you're always going to be trying to add new team members. But when you find that one person who's really good, just lock them down. Like this Webflow person that is now essentially part of the team that I hired back in June, I've worked with 3 Webflow developers. So people who take designs and then put them into Webflow to make a website or a blog or whatever you're trying to make. So this is the 3rd one I hired. The designer, I'd hired 7 designers before I found him. So essentially what you're doing is you're building out that team, and when you find that team, you just lock them down. So it's not something that is going to be easy. A lot of times you'll have a specific one-time project, you'll hire somebody, they'll do okay, they'll do a good job, but maybe you don't want to work with them again for whatever reason. Whether it's fit, personality, work quality, work ethic, there's so many different things. But when you find somebody that you truly enjoy working with, that's part of your team, you lock them down. The team is truly everything. I don't know how many times I can say that again, but when you have that team, you're essentially unstoppable. You can make apps, you can make things quickly, you can go find clients and then essentially have them pay you huge amounts to make something that you already have the team to make. It allows you to be far more flexible with whatever you want to do. So team, super important. If I want to make something new right now, if I want to go outside of my current state, actually even now, I'm trying to think of what's something that I haven't made that I don't have somebody that I would go back to help make that for me. Like Alexa app, I made an Alexa app 2 years ago. There's a guy in Florida I work with. He's awesome. He made it for under $200. A very small app, but he made an Alexa app and it was really fun to work with. I always go back there with new ideas to see what's possible. But that's the other thing, when you have this team, anything that you want to make, you can just go back to them. You can talk to them. You can hit them up on Upwork or Slack or wherever you're talking with them and say, hey, is this idea possible? This client wants to do this. I'm not sure if this platform, Alexa, iOS, whatever it is capable of doing that. What do you think? They've worked with you before. They know that you pay on time. They know that you're trustworthy. They have, you have some rapport with them. So they also become a source of knowledge. You can talk to them. You can get essentially free consultations for other clients that you're working with. And if the news is positive, if the client is willing, then you go back to this person and they get a job. They get more money, and they can help people be happy. As you're trying to as you kind of embark on this whole outsourcing journey, there's going to be always new things that you need to do. There's always new platforms that are coming up, like Zoom apps. Zoom apps are a whole new thing that just came out a month ago from when I'm recording this. And I think Zoom apps are going to be a big thing, but I don't have a developer who can do that yet. So I go to my existing developers and I'm like, hey, do any of you guys make Zoom apps? Do you know what they are? Do you think you can look into it? And yeah, one of them can. Just because a developer does iOS or web or whatever, doesn't mean that they're not able to go and learn additional things. And a lot of times the market is always moving. So right now, iOS is, I would say, actually declining. I mean, apps are declining in general just because the maintenance costs are so high. Web apps are definitely going up, and because you make one app, you can go on Android or iOS or whatever the next operating system is. Virtual reality is going up. So the market's always changing, and the skill sets needed are always changing. So just because someone is an iOS developer today or a front-end developer today doesn't mean they're not going to be a back-end person or an Android developer tomorrow. So like if you have some skill set that you need, you can always go back to your team members and say, hey, do you guys think you can do this? And at least with this one guy who I asked, he said, yeah, I think it'll take me like a week to get up to speed, and yeah, we're off to the races on making a Zoom app. So that's the thing, like when you have this team, it becomes more flexible. You don't just have this one pigeonholed person that you originally found. You have somebody who has many interests. Often these people like to create, they like to do things, they like to learn, and that their skill sets will expand, and especially if you invest in them. Like my designer that I've worked with for 2 years. We've been using Sketch for the most part, and now I'm trying to switch the whole team over to Figma. He doesn't know Figma yet, but I'm happy to pay for him to learn Figma because I've already worked with him. I like working with him. He wants to learn Figma. He knows that a lot of clients are moving that way. So me paying a few $100s for him to learn Figma then actually increases the whole team. So that's the thing, when you have the team, they know who you are, they can work with you. It just makes life so much easier. Like I can't even think of something that I couldn't do with my existing team. Like I can make a VR app, I can make an AR app, I've made a HoloLens app, I made a Mac app, web apps, APIs. Like I already have somebody who is fantastic, who I've worked with, who I want to go back and work with again. And that's just a reality of being able to work with lots of great people and then find the ones that you really like working with. Yeah, so I made 3 Mac apps, and one of the developers I really like, so I work with him again. APIs, I made 2 APIs. One of the developers I would rather not work with again, but the other one I really want to. So it's not 100%, you're not gonna have like 100% hit rate of finding someone you want to work with again. But that's the thing, like once you find that person, you just go back to them and you can do anything. Like I would have to go outside the software to find somebody, or to like have to hire somebody to build something. I guess actually for structural engineering, like if I wanted to do another architecture project, I would probably go hire somebody else. But otherwise, the kind of missing pieces for me are typically blog writers, but now I have a pretty good one. Maybe social media strategy. I think that's the biggest thing that I've been missing. Like there's one person I like working with, but she doesn't really like doing the job, so I have to go find somebody else. So that's kind of maybe one hole that I have, but it's not something that I've really kind of had to fill yet. Build a team. So important. And then you have the team, you have the capability. Any client says, hey, I want to do basically anything, and you probably, after a certain number of years, like I've hired over 100 people at this point, some of those people can help me do whatever I'm trying to do. So yeah, I mean, just keep in mind that every time you hire somebody, think in the back of your mind, is this person somebody that I can work with for a longer term? Is this somebody that I can go back to? Is this somebody I like working with? And if they are, star them, note them down, add them to your Slack group. Like right now, I essentially have a Slack channel with all my different team members, and I can just hit them up, and I can add all the different team members into one Slack channel, and we can go off and do a project for a client, or because I have a fun idea I want to do, whatever it is, you can go do that. So long-term work, people you work with for long term. It also means that you can negotiate better. They trust you. They know that you pay on time, and then you can negotiate it better. Say, hey, the client only has this budget. What can we do? And that's one of the luxuries. Another thing on Upwork, which I didn't really think about this until in like the last year. But on Upwork, you actually pay, I think it's 20% up to the first $500. So if you only have like a $500 project, that person is only going to make $400. Upwork is going to take $100. After that, I think they take 10%. So if you do a $1,000 project with somebody that you already did a $1,000 project with, then that person is going to be, like, they're going to be able to keep $900 of that new project. So it actually makes them more money if they work with people they've worked with before. So also something that's good to kind of keep in mind. But yeah, teams are very, very helpful, very important. Highly recommend.